guys, Ark here, bringing to you Chapter 2, Episode 10 of my Learning Night Elf series. This episode we're going to again go over the Night Elf versus, or Night Elf Mirror matchup, specifically Mass Hunts versus Demon Hunter. So this is a POTM Mass Hunts game, Demon Hunter for the one player on the bottom left hand. So this is a game of Moon versus Colorful, again also from the WGL qualifiers, this time the Pro bracket, the Episode 9 was from the open bracket. Both contain very strong players, so don't let the naming convention confuse you. The thing I'll call out here is this has been personally my favorite thing to, I guess, implement. I think this is, if I was to go up against a POTM Hunts player or Keeper Hunts or something, this was certainly the strategy that I would implement most likely. So the episode I covered previously certainly had one option, but there's multiple different ways that you can go about this. So there's a lot of strengths with this build, and so I'm kind of using this as time to just go over some generic things to talk through as we just watch the action unfold. But there's a lot of strengths to this. So typically a POTM Hunts player has a lot of different options to them. They can go 1 AOW Hunt Tech into an Expand Mass Dryads. They can go 2 AOW Hunts into a Nighttime Push at like the 4th star right here, typically is when it comes. They can do a Daytime AP Push with Glaives as well. That usually comes around the 1st or 2nd dot. They can also just choose to go double AOW Hunts into an Expansion and abuse their mobility and the lack of your ability to take down a finished expansion. So there's a lot of different ways that the elf can play it as the hunt player, and so that's particularly what makes it so challenging. Now, when you know you're up against hunts, or actually in Mirror in general, a base build such as this is always your starting base build. So we can see that Colorful does scout out a little bit. He sees the POTM, or the archer. He'll see the hero with the POTM. So he knows that there's either POTM archers, which is very uncommon, or it's going to be used to transition over into hunts. So more than likely, he's assuming hunts. So he knows enough from that. But regardless of whether you know what your opponent's going to do or not, this is the base you have to build. This is you always have to build your base defending hunts, because that is the only thing where your base is really going to screw you out of. If you can transition this base into a lot of different things. I'm going to pause it here so we don't get too far along. You can transition this base into a lot of different things. It's particularly open, so you have room to move around. What you really need to do is eventually you need to close it off and try and have a relatively large amount of space to move through so that you can still engage his army without fumbling over your own units. But you don't want it to be too open where the hunts have a lot of different pathways into your base. So that's the big things that we're getting out of this. And particularly, the main thing you really just need to do is try and handle his harass while creeping as much as you can. You don't want to give away any units, wisps, whatever. You just want to be very safe, keep your units alive, try and not get slowed down at all while trying to get level 2. That evasion is just so huge for your hero. Potentially, you can skill evasion first as well, depending on whether he goes Searing Arrows or True Shot. But ultimately, you're trying to get that level 2, preferably level 3 if you can. So we're just going to let it unfold. We do see the shop trick to get that extra wisp here. Ultimately, though, we do see the hunt transition from Moon, as well as throwing down a second AOW. So this is 2 AOW mass hunts. So I'm going to speed it through. So the keys that we're going to be watching is he's just trying to deal with the harassment, just not letting him get anything free. After he techs, he throws down his 3rd Moonwell. We're going to see a Hunter's Hall and another Moonwell come down here as well. But as you see, his base is just starting to get blocked in. You can see it's, and I'm not really paying attention to what's happening on here. Basically, Colorful is just, again, just sticking on the POTM, not letting him get anything done. It's really hard to creep with that Demon Hunter 1 Archer versus a POTM. And really, on this map, you're really only looking at level 2. And level 2 is relatively easy to get from this turtle once you have built up enough archers. So that's why there's nothing really pressing for him to get that level 2 right away. He'd rather just stick on the POTM. So that's all that Colorful is doing here. And we'll just watch the base as it gets built. So this is 100% one of the most important things. Hunter's Hall goes down. We'll see a Moonwell here soon. 100% one of the most important things is strictly your base build, because you can't deal with hunts without a really strong base. So he has enough archers. There's hunts on the map. He does scout it. Moon's doing a good job of keeping track of it. And he's just going to creep level 2. He's got the archers. And during this time, and this is a really important thing, he got 3 archers, just enough to help his creeping. And then he relocates his AOW away from here to go over here. This acts as like a barrier. So once you got archers and a hero in here, it's really, you're going to have this AOW whacking away. Really difficult for him to get much done there. So that's the big things that we're seeing as we get closer. And I will state that a big thing with this build is you don't want to fight too early, which a lot of mistakes could happen if you choose to fight too early. Moon's creeping a lot, so basically Colorful is just trying to keep prioritization on scouting what is the opponent doing. And that's particularly what's so hard about playing against hunts, is that there's so many different things that you can do. But you pretty much just need to utilize your heroes as your scouting, because Wisps get picked off so easily with the hunts, because if they ideally they're going to be trying to deny your vision as much as they can. So you see he gets a staff in case he gets into any weird surround issues. But ultimately he's going to pick up the Tinker, which is one of the best heroes to go against hunts. It's also very good against Dryads. So no matter what the opponent can do, the Tinker is a good option to deal with any of the pathways that are common. So Tinker's really strong. It's going to also help with his creeping, and he is going to start trying to prioritize some creeping. So he hasn't so far scouted any expansion, which is pretty much the prerequisite for any non-rushing strategy for the hunt player. So he's kind of thinking it's going to be some type of rush. He gets the long range upgrade. He's got his 4th Moonwell, and then he's going to go ahead and go into a one lore. So that 1 lore is pretty important. You're going to stay tier 2 until you feel confident that you can actually tech. In other words, you feel confident he's not doing some type of rush strategy on you. And then that way, once you know he's not rushing you, then you can make your slow tech up to bears. Another important thing is the shop. Shop is one of the most important things to defend any type of rush strategy. And when you know you're getting rushed, you need that shop, and that's what is going to be your saving grace. Another key aspect that we're going to see here soon, well, we see Ultra Vision, very good upgrade in general, but the key that I want to throw out here is when he starts upgrading Nature's Blessing. So we're going to put on, oops, let's switch perspective. So he saw a Wisp, or no, that was a hero. So far he hasn't seen enough to know whether it's a rush, but he can kind of assume. So right there, tier 1. No expansion, it's likely going to be a rush. And there we go, Nature's Blessing. So this is the point where he feels like he is going to need to start defending some type of AP rush. He goes for that Nature's Blessing, adds another AOW, and basically his front line is going to be AOWs with Nature's Blessing. So they have high armor and move really quickly. And then he's going to also have the Tinker Rockets, the little bombs, I guess, whatever they're called, while making use of Dryads. So Dryads are going to be there to help get the pickoffs that he needs. Meanwhile, his front line is going to be doing the bulk of the damage. So at this point, this is essentially the key. Like, once you know you got to defend a rush, you want to get Nature's Blessing. You already want to have the ranged upgrade. Then you also want to start adding AOWs. You don't want to go too crazy here, and that's particularly where you can get into a little bit of wonky games if you overcommit to AOWs. You want to, if you recognize the defense, if it comes during the nighttime, sometimes you just need an early glaive, and that will help defend. Get the early glaive, then eventually get your Nature's Blessing, but after you've already built your lore so you can get your Dryads pumping out. You don't want to engage too soon, and that's definitely a matter of patience that you'll kind of, as you play more with the strategy, you'll learn. But the key right here is just having a large amount of archers with a couple Dryads and then your Ancient of Wars to act as your meat shield. So we're going to speed through just for this individual fight. We're probably not gonna watch the whole replay, but I just want to call out just how this fight goes. So the glaives are throwing down their Vorpal blades on the AOW, and he's just gonna chase. He pokes with the Dryads and then runs back. So the glaives aren't really getting any damage from the Dryads, but he's engaging the hunts with the AOWs, and this is where it starts getting a little crazy. Like you kind of think that, oh, this is going to be a easy win for the elf player or the hunt player, But these units just start falling, and these AOWs are just putting out a ton of damage. And it's really difficult for the glaives to really focus anything when they have to focus the Pocket Factory. Meanwhile, all these Clockwork Goblins are just doing a ton of damage. So you can watch this replay. We'll just slow it down a little bit as I'm talking. What you're seeing is just, it may seem really easy for the Hunt player, like, oh yeah, why would he push into this? Well, one, I mean, you're not really expecting how effective the Goblins and the Ancient of Wars are, but they're insanely effective. They support your army so much, and it's not easy for Hunts to just run past them, because you're taking a ton of damage, and it also exposes your backline quite a bit to it. Another key aspect of it is really just if he backs off, he's already been committing to an AP rush or some type of rush. Now, he is going to back off right here and do something else, but it's not so easy for the Elf player to just back off from a rush like this, because your opponent hasn't really invested that much into a defense. They got 2 AOWs, and that's pretty much it. And he lost one of the AOWs. He's going to rebuild them. But the Hunt player has to invest so much into it that it's really difficult for him to just say, okay, I'm going to abandon this because there's no way I can win this fight, when he has to win that fight. Otherwise, he is super far behind. So that was a really quick overview of particularly, I guess, my favorite thing to do versus Hunt players now. If you find that they aren't going to rush you, all you have to do is transition into tier 3 units. If you see that he's going 1 AOW hunts, you aren't going to be going for the Nature's Blessing upgrade. You're not going to go for all this overcommitment with AOWs. You're going to play it more standard. If he backs off and does something else, well, then you just tech up behind it, and then you're going to have bears, and he can't rush you, so he has to get an expansion. Otherwise, you're going to have a strong high tech army versus a weak tech army. Something to always consider, I guess. Just here's a good thing for those struggling with the Hunt rushes. So thanks for tuning in, guys. That'll be it for this episode. Take care now. Bye.